perfectly normal for them to come up and approach you, especially a sow with cubs. They'll pop their jaws, pop, 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 pop. They might huff at you and growl at you, but then they'll leave. They're doing that to occupy you while the cubs take off. Another tunnel. There's a typical bear tunnel. Look at that. Nice and round and no more than 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. That's what we call a bear tunnel. I like black bears a lot. They're just so fun to watch. There was a big male bear that used to live right across the river here, and he was a big old cantankerous guy. And he and I got along great, you know. I respected his distance and he respected mine. We'd see each other, and he just took me as part of like I was one of the other animals over there. Typical any old male anything is usually cantankerous and grumpy just by nature, you know, people included, you know. I don't hunt anything that we aren't gonna use or that we don't have a use for. We try to use as much of it as we can, to the point where I even save hoofs and teeth and stuff like that. Like from the bears, we save the teeth and the claws for people. Some of it I send to some of my Native American friends to make jewelry and stuff out of. I even save turkey feathers for some of them. They use it in their ceremonies. I had this vision of Alaska that probably a lot of people have that have never been there or spent any real time there. We moved up there in like 1981 or 82, something like that. And you know, I had visions of going up there and homesteading maybe and living out and living off the land. You know how long we lasted living off the land up there? About a week. We'd have been dead probably. You know, my education about nature, I really came of age up there, and the harsh reality of what it really was, I think, struck me. My eyes froze shut once. I had a little trap line I was running, and I went out there one day to check these traps, and I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have gone alone, that's for sure. It was about 50 below that morning, and I went to blink once, and I blinked, and my eyes froze shut. Out on a dog sled trail on snowshoes, a couple miles from home, and 50 below zero, and I didn't know what to do because my eyes were froze shut and I didn't know how to open them. I didn't panic. That much I knew about being in nature. I put my hands down between my knees, pulled my gloves off real fast, put them up on my eyes, just long enough for my fingers to thaw out my eyelids, rubbed real hard, blinked about 20 times, put my hands back in my mittens, and headed back for home. I didn't continue on the trap line. I met some very interesting people up there, including the Native Americans that lived up there, and most of the white people up there at that point in time did not get along with the natives at all. They didn't get along well. But I got along great with the Native Americans up there, really well, I think because of my association with nature. And you know, it's kind of like I spoke their language and vice versa. We got along very well, and I learned a ton from my Indian friends, as I called them at the time. They were Athabascan Indians, the ones that I met up there, and we went fishing together and hunting together, and I learned a lot, and especially from the elders, the older. They'd teach me tricks about trapping and about hunting and little things that they knew. And one of the things that they taught me was the association of nature and religion. Religion to them is all about nature and their relationship with it, and how they respect it, and how they treat the land and the animals and everything, the wind, the water. To them, everything has a spirit. The wind is alive, the air is alive, the water is alive, and they place great value on these things. They don't look at the human race as being, you know, controlling and overbearing and overpowering, and we control this and we control that. They're like, that's a myth. You just think you do. You don't control anything. You know, these things are allowing you to be here and you don't even realize it. You're given an animal when you hunt. You're being offered that. That animal is offering itself to you. When a moose steps out in front of you and you're hunting, the animal just decided to give up its life so you can survive by eating and getting its fur. That's the way they look at it, and they believe that. But they were converted a long time ago by white settlers into Christianity. And so they have both religions that they have to juggle. Their stories are a lot older than the Christian stories in some cases. Theirs go back enough generations to be before the Bible. And yet the stories are similar. They just have different names for the characters. And you know, Great Raven had a raft. So that when the big flood came, Great Raven's raft came and the people were able to get on it with 2 animals of each one to save them. They have a Noah's Ark story in their religion. And they said, well, what do you think about that? And they said, well, the one proves the truth of the other. I even tested some of their stuff out. They said, oh, you can test it. If you don't believe, you can test it out. Like asking Raven for luck. We went deer hunting. My wife could tell you too. We were deer hunting, we were bow hunting, and I said, watch, the raven will come by and let us know when there's a deer coming. And we'd be sitting there, and a raven would fly like right over our heads when we'd be sitting up on the mountain here, around here in a tree stand. And the raven would come from a certain direction and fly right over our heads, and he'd squawk like 3 times. And like 3 minutes later, a deer would come from that very direction and walk right to our tree and stop. And this happened not once, this happened hundreds of times. They think that the ravens that are flying around have the spirits of hunters and fishermen that have passed on, living within them. And they're down here to watch us and keep an eye on us. That's why the ravens are here. I know that there's some sort of a spiritual bond there. And I'm not a god, I don't know how it works. All I know is there's something there. I mean, you know, pick up the tiniest flower, the tiniest one you can find, and look at it really close, like with a magnifying glass. The tiniest little form of life you can find. And a flower is the greatest thing I can think of. And look at it real close, you know? And then go find every scientist, the greatest ones in the world, and say, you know what? You build me one of them from scratch. You're so great. You know all this stuff. Us humans, build me one of them. I'll give you $100 million to build me one of them from scratch. Take all your test tubes and your chemicals, anything you want. Take your particle accelerator and all that stuff and build me one of them little flowers. Show me how that works. Show me how to build one of them. They won't even come close. I mean, look around you, what's here? I mean, it's incredible what's here. Everything has some sort of a relationship with everything else. We're all related. Everything here is related, all the life that's here, and even the stuff that doesn't appear to be alive. So I'd say to people, be respectful. You might be wrong in what you're thinking, in other words. There might be something here bigger than you are. There's proof that evolution exists, that things do evolve. Certainly things do evolve. As far as where we fit into the picture, who knows? We certainly seem a whole heck of a lot different than anything else that's here. I'll tell you that much. You know how much I like bears. I like hanging around bears and stuff. Bears have been around for a long, long time. They haven't figured out how to make, you know, Volvo station wagons to ride around with them with the air conditioners on days like this. You don't see them doing it. I don't see anything else with TV antennas, riding around in jets, trying to go to different worlds and stuff. Why is that? I never figured that out. We got a perfectly good place right here to live if we take care of it. We've evolved a lot differently than everything else here, so I'm not quite sure that we started out here. I think we could very well have been placed here by someone or something or some God, who knows. I mean, you can make up words. There's all kinds of different words even for God, but God's as good as any. What's out here in nature is all pretty simple. And all you got to do is take the time to look, but have some respect for it. Because it isn't necessarily here forever, and neither are we. I personally think we're going to be the shortest lived species that has ever walked the earth. Ever. We'll go down in history, if history is ever written after us. I mean, actually there won't be any history books after us, because you notice none of the other life in this world gives a darn. They don't write books about it, we do. It's only important to us, evidently. They don't care. You know, the birds that are singing, they're just one day at a time in it. You know, they're just enjoying life today as it is. Right where that cut goes down through the corn, that's where you saw him. He's up in the corn there right now. So if we go this low edge, if we follow this low edge, we might catch him. I know where he's going to come out. If he comes out of the corn, he'll come out over there.